Welcome to Season 19 of the 5-Minute Biographies podcast from 5minutebiographies.com, where each week we tell you interesting things about interesting people in about 5 minutes. If you enjoy the show and would like to support us, why not consider buying us a coffee? Head on over to 5minutebiographies.com/coffee to see how. This is episode 4, Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was born on the 21st of July, 1899, in Oak Park, Illinois, and became one of the most influential and celebrated writers of the 20th century. Known for his sparse, direct prose and larger-than-life persona, Hemingway left an indelible mark on literature with his novels, short stories, and journalistic work. His adventurous life, filled with war, travel, love, and personal struggles, shaped both his writing and his public image. His works, which often explored themes of courage, masculinity, loss, and the human condition, continue to be studied and admired. He died by suicide on July 2nd, 1961, in Ketchum, Idaho, leaving behind a legacy that has endured for generations. Hemingway was raised in a comfortable, conservative household in Oak Park, where his mother, Grace, was a music teacher, and his father, Clarence, was a physician. From an early age, he developed a love for the outdoors, spending summers in northern Michigan hunting, fishing, and exploring the wilderness. This exposure to nature would later influence much of his writing. As a student, he excelled in English and showed a talent for storytelling. After graduating from high school in 1917, he chose not to attend university, opting instead to pursue a career in journalism. His first major life-changing experience came during World War I, when he volunteered as an ambulance driver for the Red Cross. He was sent to the Italian front, where he witnessed the horrors of war firsthand. In 1918, he was seriously wounded by mortar fire and spent months recovering in a hospital in Milan. During this time, he fell in love with a nurse, Agnes von Kurowski, but their relationship ended when she rejected his plans for marriage. The experience left him heartbroken and deeply influenced his later works, particularly A Farewell to Arms, which drew heavily from his time in Italy. After the war, Hemingway returned to the United States and worked briefly as a journalist before moving to Paris in the early 1920s. In the French capital, he became part of the Lost Generation, a group of expatriate writers and artists disillusioned by the war and seeking meaning in a rapidly changing world. Under the mentorship of writers such as Gertrude Stein and F. Scott Fitzgerald, Hemingway honed his distinctive writing style, concise, unembellished, and deeply evocative. His first major publication, The Sun Also Rises, 1926, captured the aimlessness and decadence of the post-war generation, establishing him as a leading literary voice. Hemingway's experiences as a journalist, covering events such as the Greco-Turkish War and the Spanish Civil War, further shaped his writing. His novel, For Whom the Bell Tolls, in 1940, which follows an American fighting with anti-fascist guerrillas in Spain, is one of his most acclaimed works, blending his signature realism with themes of sacrifice, war, and fate. He also spent time in Africa, on safari, which inspired stories such as The Snows of Kilimanjaro and The Short Happy Life of Francis Macumber, reflecting his love for adventure and the untamed wilderness. Despite his literary success, Hemingway's personal life was often tumultuous. He married 4 times, with each relationship marked by passion and turbulence. His need for excitement and danger led him to participate in activities such as deep-sea fishing, big game hunting, and bullfighting, all of which found their way into his writing. His obsession with proving his masculinity sometimes bordered on self-destructive, contributing to his growing struggles with alcoholism and depression. During World War II, Hemingway worked as a war correspondent, witnessing key battles in Europe, including the D-Day landings and the liberation of Paris. His exploits during the war added to his legend, with some accounts suggesting he even took an active role in combat, though these claims have been debated. After the war, he settled in Cuba, where he wrote The Old Man and the Sea, 1952, a short but powerful novel about an aging fisherman's struggle against a giant marlin. The book won the Pulitzer Prize and played a key role in Hemingway receiving the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1954. His later years were marred by declining health, both physical and mental. A series of accidents, including 2 near-fatal plane crashes while on safari in Africa, left him in constant pain. His heavy drinking and depression worsened, and he struggled with writer's block. As he aged, he became increasingly paranoid and withdrawn, fearing surveillance and convinced that his best days were behind him. In 1960, he left Cuba as Fidel Castro's government tightened its grip, moving to Ketchum, Idaho, where he hoped to find peace. However, his mental health continued to deteriorate. He was hospitalized for psychiatric treatment, undergoing electroconvulsive therapy, which many believe further contributed to his decline. On the 2nd of July 1961, just weeks before his 62nd birthday, Hemingway died by suicide at his home in Ketchum. His death shocked the literary world, but it was not entirely unexpected by those who knew him well. Hemingway's influence on literature remains unparalleled. His minimalist prose and the iceberg theory, the idea that deeper meaning should be hinted at rather than explicitly stated, transformed modern writing. His themes of resilience, honor, and the human struggle continue to resonate. His works are widely taught in schools and universities, and his adventurous life has made him a cultural icon beyond literature. He remains one of the most analyzed and discussed writers of the 20th century, with biographers and scholars continuously exploring his complex personality, relationships, and creative genius. His homes in Key West, Florida, and Havana, Cuba, have been preserved as museums, attracting visitors who seek to understand the man behind the myth. Though his life ended in tragedy, Hemingway's legacy endures through his unforgettable characters, gripping narratives, and the sheer impact of his storytelling. His ability to capture the raw essence of life, whether in war, love, or solitude, ensures that his works remain as compelling today as they were during his lifetime. His stories continue to be read, his style continues to influence writers, and his name remains synonymous with literary greatness. Thanks for listening to the 5-Minute Biographies podcast from 5minutebiographies.com. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, or if you would like to support us more directly, why not consider buying us a coffee? Head on over to 5minutebiographies.com/coffee to see how. Also, why not check out our other 5-minute podcasts, which you can find at 5minuteproductions.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.